As more land within the Chesapeake Bay watershed is used for development, stormwater runoff has become the region's fastest growing source of pollution. Stormwater runoff can carry pollutants from streets and buildings and send them into streams, rivers, and ultimately the Chesapeake. Green infrastructure is becoming more and more important in addressing local flooding issues and reducing stormwater pollution. David Wood leads the Chesapeake Bay Stormwater Network, which promotes stormwater management that is sustainable, resilient, and equitable.
Green infrastructure are the natural and nature-based practices that we use to capture and treat stormwater runoff. It's a way of mimicking those natural systems like our forests and our meadows through these engineered and designed systems. So they slow the water down, they hold them in place for a while, and then they release them slowly and naturally to the streams and rivers the way they're supposed to. Today we met with Dr. James Hunter, who's an associate professor here at Morgan State.
We're in Baltimore, Maryland at Morgan State University's Center for the Built Environment and Infrastructure Studies. Where we're sitting right now is where we have one of our bioretention facilities. It's really protecting a very nearby water resource in the Herring Run that also deposits into the Chesapeake Bay.
They're sort of starting at the source here at Morgan State by capturing runoff at the green roof. So they've replaced one of their impervious or hard surfaces on the roof with something that will capture and infiltrate stormwater runoff. But then they also, below that, they have opportunities to catch any overflow or runoff from the parking lots in their bioretention facility. They also have some rainwater harvesting facilities, large cistern tanks underground, where they can capture some of that runoff, store them, and then reuse that water in some of their gray water systems. We also met Elford Jackson out here, who was one of the designers on the project.
For all building projects, you have to have some element of stormwater management. Some stormwater managements are isolated, some are individual, but this is one that kind of works in a series, so everything is connected. So you're almost getting like a triple effect of that filtering nature for each one of these facilities that the storm passes through.
Maintenance is maybe the biggest ongoing challenge with installing green infrastructure practices. If you don't inspect and maintain your green infrastructure practices regularly, they'll over time start to lose their function.
Maintenance is definitely a big challenge, not only at Morgan, but for other jurisdictions. But it's something that we try and meet head on.
One of our tough lessons was that we really needed to be prioritizing maintenance from the beginning, from the very beginning of installation. And now that's something that we really do think about, not just after the project has been installed, but in the design process. How can we be designing with maintenance in mind?
Lancaster, Pennsylvania has focused on installing green infrastructure throughout their city to address stormwater backup and flooding issues. Kate Austin is the Green Infrastructure Asset Coordinator for the City of Lancaster.
50% of the city of Lancaster is actually impervious surface, so our green infrastructure program really works to create these pockets of pervious areas like porous pavements and rain gardens that can help to absorb the water in place rather than going into our sewer system. These are gardens that are well designed to manage a large volume of stormwater to help reduce localized flooding, to manage our stormwater loads here in the city. Here at the intersection of Plum and Walnut, that was one of the challenges that we have had, and that has really been addressed by the rain gardens and the porous pavements that are now mitigating about 1.5 million gallons of stormwater annually.
The project also allowed a popular brewery to add attractive outdoor seating and serves as a traffic calming measure. It's just one of many green infrastructure projects with benefits that extend beyond stormwater and into a community.
The residents in Lancaster are incredibly supportive of our green infrastructure program. The city has engaged in some private-public partnership projects. One really exciting one is at the corner of North Jefferson Street in the city, where there was a private property. We were having some issues with some localized flooding, and there was an opportunity with a willing landowner to install a rain garden at the corner. It's a really wonderful partnership, and they have been wonderful stewards of the rain garden there and put a lot of care into it.
We were very excited and on board when we learned about the type of project that they had because, again, it was a win-win for both us and for the city. We could do something good for the environment, but we also have a nice parking lot and a beautiful rain garden for the neighborhood.
Across town at Brightside Baptist Church, congregation member Francine Firestine has been implementing green infrastructure practices to address building maintenance issues.
Here on our campus, we had some stormwater runoff that was seeping into the building. So here we installed our rain garden behind us. That actually captures 1/8 of the pointed roof. We've gone through 5 seasons and there's no more water coming into the building. We saved the church $450,000 just by adding native plants, some more dirt, some trees, and it stopped the water from seeping into the building.
Green infrastructure has been really beneficial, not only in the management of stormwater, but all the other tangential benefits that our green infrastructure brings in city beautification, addition of habitat and green spaces in some of our dense urban neighborhoods that don't have a lot of green space.
I want to make sure that the future students that come behind me have that same sense that they can be in that classroom and see the green technology around it. So they always have that sense that, hey, we should have some green technology involved with all of our development.
We're really excited to see the future of green infrastructure in the Chesapeake Bay. I'm particularly interested in seeing the way that communities are starting to push the envelope on things like building climate resilience into their green infrastructure practices, as well as thinking more about how they're engaging and working with the community members in these spaces to make sure that the projects that they're putting in place are things that are desirable and really of value to the folks that live in these spaces.